We are faced with many pressing issues around the globe as we continue to live in a world of COVID-19. I'm Lara Netherlands, and this is Boao Moments, Voices of the Global Youth. Welcome back to another episode, and a very warm welcome to all our esteemed guests who have just tuned in. Please introduce yourselves to our audience.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Tony Dlamini. I'm from South Africa, and I live here in Hainan. I'm a doctor by profession.
My name is Francis Tušek. I come from Croatia. I've been in Hainan for 5 years, and I have a company here, International Trade and Consulting.
Welcome, Francis. And Rexa.
Guys, Rexa here. I'm from Cambodia, and I've been living in China for almost 8 years now. So right now I'm located in Shanghai, and my specialty is in recruitment industry. But I'm working in supply chain. Very nice to be here.
As a global phenomenon, the COVID-19 pandemic continues to pose ongoing challenges to the world and has led to a sustained regression in global economic growth, along with many uncertainties and instability. From your point of view and in terms of your expertise, what obstacles do you think global development is currently faced with as a result of the pandemic? And what problems were exposed through its effects?
So, using my expertise, the first couple of problems we noticed onset of the epidemic was number one, health and the distribution of health materials. Number two was financial stability and the stability of states and countries and as a collective. And number three was time shortages of materials and lack of industry. So that was one of the questions.
A very well-rounded answer, Dr. Dlamini. I think especially in countries where we already had an economic regression before the pandemic hit us, we just saw that further exacerbate.
I just want to stress mental health issues. Because we already said that. Not only because of COVID and COVID-induced anxiety, which is actually a thing. Many people don't know this. I knew people who never had problems with anxiety who got panic attacks because they had COVID. So it's really severe because of the feeling you can breathe, but there's maybe some other mechanisms.
Well, I think through this very pandemic, we've definitely seen how our doctors, medical workers, and volunteers have played an extremely crucial role in trying to curb the spread of this virus. So over to you, Rexa.
The obstacles that we face here in terms of global development is in terms of globalization. We used to live in a very, very well-connected world. And the post-pandemic world, it seemed to me that it is heading towards a regionalization of the world. Like it turns the globalized world into a regional world. The world is turning into a block, and you can see that right now and going on at the moment.
And one more thing, this also goes back to the concept of peak globalization. Globalization at one point was beneficial for everybody. The way the supply chain worked, the way that competitive advantages are differently distributed throughout the different countries. But right now, it's all about regions and maybe even national economies in many cases, etc. So there's this idea that we reached peak globalization, the point where globalization is no more in interest. Its cost benefit just went negative. It's for most countries.
Within the background of the pandemic, we need to not only focus on our current situation, we also need to think about how the world should develop after the pandemic has ceased. So in what ways do you think we should solve the problems that you've just mentioned?
We tend to see a trend of when there's a reopening of economies or reopening of industries, they're met with two things. First of all, is a shortage, so they're going to try to compensate that shortage. And number two is innovation. When providing a solution for these kinds of things, we have to first meet the basic needs of the society we're trying to contribute to, or the population that we're trying to meet. Creating sustainable systems with closed loops where fraudsters or anybody who tries to take advantage of that doesn't get a foothold of that, and to make sure that even the little guys receive what they need to get back. We as a population would also have to be encouraged to think outside the box, and by that I mean just like starting your own like local business.
Do any of you feel like you yourselves have contributed to solving these problems in any way, or do you know anyone personally who is engaged in these kind of solutions that we've been talking about?
For me personally, I'm right now joining supply chain function here, and for now, I'm also working remotely as well. So this is how I'm contributing to the supply chain that keeping the world run nonstop, right? So hopefully that bringing the food that you need from one place to another, or bringing the products that you need. When my clients, for example, they come to us for help, so we can help them. Okay, let's find some people for you, so who can actually get things done here during the pandemic, even though it's a hard time, right? We're making an impact in some way, and I'm grateful that I'm a part of that.
What I have been doing since the beginning of the pandemic, way back in 2020, is trying to stop misinformation about the virus. So basically running down virology itself, and as to how viruses trend, as to how viruses mutate. So running down that whole story to people was actually very important.
So, gentlemen, thank you so much for your insightful opinions. And I really enjoyed talking to all of you today. And as for our audience, please stay tuned as Hainan International Media Center brings you the latest news and the hot topics of this year's Boao Forum for Asia. Please take care of yourselves, and wishing you all good health.